In the days following the victory, Ethan Hart worked tirelessly with Queen Lyra to solidify the peace they had won. They spent long hours meeting with leaders from both Zephyra and human colonies, ensuring the foundation of trust was strong and lasting. Their commitment was unwavering, their determination clear to all who met them. One day, ambassadors from Earth arrived at Zephyra's capital to discuss a formal peace treaty. Ethan stood beside Lyra, greeting them warmly. The ambassadors were initially cautious, unsure what to expect from an alien civilization. However, Ethan's calm presence and sincere words quickly put them at ease. Together, Lyra and Ethan led the discussions, carefully addressing the concerns raised by both sides. Ethan spoke passionately about the benefits of unity, reminding them all that peace would lead to prosperity and understanding for future generations. Despite the progress, Ethan noticed lingering doubts from some human ambassadors. He realized that prejudices and fear were deeply rooted, and overcoming them would take patience and continued effort. One evening, Ethan sat alone in the palace garden, thinking about these challenges. Lyra joined him quietly, sitting beside him on a stone bench. "You look troubled," Lyra observed gently. Ethan sighed softly, nodding. "Some ambassadors still struggle with trust. I understand their fears, but I wish there was a quicker path to unity." Lyra placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Change always takes time. Your sincerity has already opened many hearts. Keep believing, Ethan. Your words and actions continue to make a difference." Encouraged by Lyra's faith, Ethan found renewed determination. The next morning, he spoke again to the ambassadors, sharing personal stories of his experiences on Zephyra. He described how he was initially cautious, but grew to deeply respect and care for the Zephyrans. His honest words moved many in the delegation, breaking down barriers of mistrust. As the talks progressed, Ethan invited ambassadors to witness everyday life in Zephyra. They toured markets bustling with human and Zephyran merchants, observed joint construction projects, and saw firsthand the bonds forming between their peoples. Gradually, the ambassadors' attitudes shifted. Seeing the reality of peaceful coexistence opened their eyes, dissolving lingering suspicions. Hope began replacing doubt. Yet just as Ethan believed unity was within reach, Commander Aurea approached him urgently one afternoon. "We've discovered a threat," Aurea explained quickly. "A small group from Earth opposes peace. They plan to sabotage the treaty signing to create mistrust." Ethan felt anger rising but kept calm. "We must stop them without causing further division." "Do we know their plan?" Aurea nodded. "They intend to attack during the final signing ceremony, believing chaos will reignite tensions." Ethan immediately informed Lyra, and together they formed a plan to ensure safety and expose the plot. Security increased discreetly, while they openly continued preparations for the signing. On the day of the ceremony, the city buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Zephyrans and humans gathered together, hopeful about the future. Ethan stood by Lyra's side, watching carefully for signs of danger. As the treaty signing began, Ethan noticed suspicious movement near the crowd's edge, quickly signaling Aurea and her guards. Ethan calmly moved toward the disruption. Keeping his actions subtle, a group of renegade humans suddenly sprang forward, aiming weapons at the gathered leaders. Ethan intercepted the closest attacker, wrestling him to the ground, disarming him quickly. Aurea and her guards swiftly subdued the others, preventing any harm. The crowd watched anxiously, murmurs spreading quickly. Ethan knew he had to address them immediately. Stepping forward, Ethan spoke clearly and confidently. "Fear can drive us apart, but courage and unity will always make us stronger. Do not let this act of fear dictate our future. Our peace is worth fighting for, worth protecting." His words resonated deeply with the crowd. Cheers of agreement rose, drowning out any lingering doubt or fear. The ambassadors, witnessing Ethan's bravery firsthand, now fully supported the treaty. Lyra stood beside Ethan, pride and admiration shining in her eyes. "Your courage has again strengthened our bond," she whispered warmly. Ethan smiled, relief and joy filling him. Together, we will protect this peace and ensure it lasts. The treaty was signed successfully, marking a historic moment of unity between humans and Zephyrans. Celebrations continued long into the night, laughter and music echoing throughout. The city. Days after the ceremony, Ethan and Lyra visited human colonies together, reinforcing the bonds they had forged. Everywhere they traveled, they witnessed cooperation, kindness, and mutual respect growing stronger each day. Returning to Zephyra, Ethan felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He and Lyra had faced numerous challenges, overcoming them through trust, patience, and unity. Yet, he knew their journey was far from over. Lyra sensed his thoughts. "What comes next?" she asked gently. Ethan looked thoughtfully at the bustling city around them. "We continue building this peace day by day. Challenges will come, but we'll face them as we always have together." Lyra smiled warmly, nodding. "Yes, together. Our unity is our strength." Walking side by side, Ethan and Lyra moved forward, ready to embrace whatever the future might bring. Their shared commitment would guide them, inspiring countless others to follow the path of peace they had courageously created. After the exile of Kiro and his followers, the Zephyran city gradually returned to peaceful normalcy. Ethan Hart worked tirelessly alongside Queen Lyra to maintain and strengthen the newfound unity between humans and Zephyrans. Their combined efforts brought noticeable changes. Markets opened for trade, cultural exchanges took place, and the previously wary inhabitants slowly began to embrace this new partnership. Ethan saw hope reflected daily in the eyes of the citizens as humans, and Zephyrans interacted with curiosity and respect. Still, he knew lasting peace required constant effort and vigilance. One morning, Ethan and Lyra were in the palace, examining maps and discussing potential trade routes with human colonies. Their conversation was interrupted abruptly by Commander Aurea, who entered with an urgent expression. "Queen Lyra, Ethan," Aurea began quickly, "Kiro has returned. He's gathered an alliance with rogue humans. They threaten our unity and are marching toward our city." Lyra's face hardened, determination clear in her gaze. "We must prepare immediately," she commanded. Ethan nodded, feeling a deep pang of frustration. He had hoped that Kiro's exile would bring lasting peace, but now realized they faced yet another critical test. Preparations began swiftly. Ethan and Lyra worked side by side, organizing defenses and rallying warriors. Humans and Zephyrans stood shoulder to shoulder, their unity stronger than ever in the face of common danger. As they finalized their strategy, Ethan noticed anxiety in Lyra's eyes. He approached her gently, offering comfort with his quiet strength. "We will succeed, Lyra," Ethan assured her. "We are together, and our cause is just." Lyra took a steady breath, visibly calming. "You are right, Ethan. Our unity is our greatest strength." Days passed in tense preparation. Scouts brought word that Kiro and his human allies were nearing the city. The day of battle approached swiftly, and Ethan found himself walking among warriors, offering encouragement and sharing words of unity and peace. Finally, the morning of confrontation arrived. The city was quiet, tension heavy in the air. Ethan stood beside Lyra, watching from a defensive position atop the city wall. As Kiro's forces appeared on the horizon, Kiro stepped forward, his voice loud and bitter. "Zephyrans, reject the weakness of peace with humans. Join us and reclaim your strength." Lyra stepped confidently forward to address the assembled warriors and citizens. Her voice was clear and unwavering. "Our strength lies not in hatred, but in unity. We choose peace, not division." Cheers erupted from those around Ethan and Lyra, inspired by their leader's courage. Warriors stood firm, refusing Kiro's calls for rebellion. Frustration clear on his face, Kiro signaled his forces to attack. The battle began fiercely, with clashes along the defensive lines. Ethan fought valiantly beside Zephyran warriors, using every skill he had learned. The city's defenders held firm, driven by their shared belief in unity. Amid the battle, Ethan faced a group of rogue humans. They were tough and relentless, clearly determined to disrupt the alliance. Ethan, fighting bravely, called out to them, pleading for reason even amid combat. "Why fight this?" Ethan shouted, his voice strong yet pleading. "We seek peace, unity. We can live together, stronger for it." Several paused, uncertainty in their eyes. Ethan continued earnestly. "Hatred leads nowhere. We have a chance for true peace. Please, lay down your arms." One human hesitated, then another, their resolve wavering. Seeing this, more rogue humans lowered their weapons, realizing the truth in Ethan's words. With the tide turning, Kiro's forces began to falter. Zephyrin warriors, encouraged by Ethan's bravery, pressed forward. Ethan saw Lyra fighting courageously. Nearby, her presence inspiring her warriors to greater strength. As the battle neared its end, Ethan confronted Kiro directly. The renegade leader's eyes burned with anger and desperation. They fought fiercely, evenly matched. But Ethan's determination for peace gave him a crucial advantage. "You will never win," Kiro growled, struggling against Ethan's strength. Ethan replied firmly, holding Kiro at bay. "Hatred never does. Unity is our path forward." Finally, Ethan subdued Kiro, ending the conflict decisively. Warriors around them paused, the battle's outcome clear. Kiro's followers surrendered, recognizing their defeat. In the aftermath, Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, looking out over the battlefield, exhausted yet victorious. They saw Zephyrins and humans working together, tending wounds, supporting each other. Lyra turned to Ethan, gratitude and pride evident in her eyes. "Your courage and kindness have united our peoples even more deeply," she said softly. Ethan smiled modestly. "Together, we've shown what unity can achieve. Our bond will grow stronger from this day." That night, the city celebrated the victory. Fires illuminated the streets as humans and Zephyrins gathered, sharing stories, food, and laughter. Ethan felt deeply moved by the genuine camaraderie he saw everywhere around him. Lyra approached quietly, smiling warmly as she took Ethan's hand gently. "Look at what we've achieved," she whispered happily. Ethan squeezed her hand gently, happiness filling his heart. "This is just the beginning. Together, we can achieve so much more." Lyra nodded, her expression hopeful. "Yes, Ethan, our unity will guide us toward lasting peace." They stood quietly together, enjoying the moment and the hope it brought for the future. Ethan knew challenges remained, but he felt confident they could overcome anything together. Under the brilliant Zephyrin stars, Ethan and Lyra embraced the peace they had fought so hard for, determined to protect and nurture it. They were stronger together, ready for whatever the future might bring. Days passed peacefully after the attack, and Ethan found himself growing more comfortable among the Zephyrins. His actions during the conflict had earned him respect from warriors who had once doubted him. But he remained cautious, knowing peace could easily be disrupted. Each day Ethan spent with Lyra deepened their bond. They shared meals, discussed strategies, and often walked together through Zephora's gardens, talking about the future. Lyra taught Ethan more about her people, and he, in return, told her about Earth, its beauty, struggles, and the hope he carried for a peaceful future. Despite their growing closeness, Ethan sensed lingering unease within the palace. He could feel eyes watching him cautiously whenever he walked the corridors alone. He knew not everyone fully trusted him yet. One evening, Ethan and Lyra attended a gathering of Zephoran elders. It was important to discuss alliances and peace treaties. Many elders expressed support, but a few remained wary. Ethan listened patiently to their concerns, answering each with honesty and respect. As the meeting ended, an elder named Turan approached Ethan privately. Turan was old, wise, and deeply respected. His eyes were kind yet cautious as he spoke. "You speak of peace, young human," Turan said gently. "But do you truly believe your people will accept us as equals?" Ethan met Turan's gaze directly, sincerity in his voice. I cannot speak for all humans, but many of us desire peace deeply. Our future depends on understanding each other. I promise you, Tehran, I will do everything I can to make it happen. Tehran nodded slowly, thoughtful and hopeful. Your honesty gives me hope, Ethan. Continue to prove your words through actions. Ethan took Tehran's words seriously, determined to demonstrate his sincerity further. Over the following days, he worked even harder, helping the Zephyrans wherever needed. He participated in rebuilding damaged parts of the city from the recent attacks, earning gratitude from many citizens. One day, as Ethan helped repair a bridge, Lyra joined him. She worked alongside him, surprising many Zephyrans who saw their queen laboring just like anyone else. Their shared efforts inspired others to join, creating a sense of unity rarely felt before. Yet, despite these efforts, there were still those who plotted in the shadows. Oria, having made peace with Ethan, came to him one night with troubling news. I have heard whispers, Oria confessed quietly. A faction still opposes our union, and they plan another attack. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Do you know when or how? Oria shook her head sadly. No, but I will continue searching for answers. Be cautious, Ethan, you have proven yourself, and I wish no harm upon you. Ethan thanked her genuinely, feeling deep respect for the once hostile commander who now stood by him. Days later, as Ethan walked alone through the palace gardens at night, the tranquility was suddenly shattered. He heard swift footsteps behind him, turning quickly as several attackers emerged from the shadows. Ethan recognized them as the renegade faction, their eyes filled with anger. Ethan fought bravely, using skills learned from Zephyran warriors. But the attackers outnumbered him, quickly overpowering him. Just as they prepared to strike a final blow, a commanding voice rang out clearly. Enough! Lyra stood, her figure imposing even in the dim light. Her eyes blazed with fury as she advanced, her royal guard swiftly subduing the attackers. Lyra knelt beside Ethan, concern clear on her face. Are you hurt? She asked gently. I'll be fine, Ethan replied softly, grateful for her timely arrival. Lyra rose slowly, her expression fierce. This betrayal ends now. The captured attackers were brought before the council the next day. Their leader, a Zephyran named Kiro, stood defiantly, his hatred clear. Lyra spoke firmly, authority clear in her voice. Why do you oppose peace, Kiro? Why risk our people's future? Kiro's eyes narrowed bitterly. Peace with humans is weakness. They will betray us. This union is dangerous. Ethan stepped forward, addressing Kiro directly. You fear betrayal, but your actions only cause more suffering. We have the chance for true peace, something stronger than fear and hate. Kiro glared silently, but murmurs of agreement rose from many Zephyrans in the crowd, realizing Ethan's wisdom. Delivered her judgment firmly. You and your followers will be exiled. Let your hatred find no place among us. Afterward, Ethan and Lyra stood together, gazing out at the city. This decision was necessary, Lyra said quietly, sadness in her voice. It was, Ethan agreed gently. True peace requires strength. In the days that followed, Ethan and Lyra continued their efforts tirelessly. They spoke openly to both humans and Zephyrans, encouraging dialogue and understanding. Their joint leadership slowly began to erase fears and mistrust from the hearts of their peoples. One afternoon, Ethan and Lyra found themselves alone, walking to a peaceful part of the palace garden. Ethan felt a question rising within him, something he needed to ask. Lyra, Ethan began softly, do you believe humans and Zephyrans can truly live together and last in peace? Lyra paused, turning to face him. With you beside me, Ethan, I believe anything is possible. Ethan felt warmth spread through him, her words filling him with hope and confidence. I promise to stand by you always, he said sincerely, his voice steady and sure. Lyra smiled softly, the strength of her trust clear in her eyes. Together, we will create the future our worlds deserve. They stood quietly, feeling the deep connection and shared purpose binding them closely. Despite the challenges ahead, Ethan knew they could overcome anything. Guided by hope, trust, and unity. As the sun set over Zephyra, casting a warm glow across the gardens, Ethan felt deeply grateful. His journey had brought him to a world filled with beauty, challenges, and the promise of a peaceful future. Together with Lyra, he knew they would forge a new path, forever changing the destinies of their peoples. The days following Ethan's introduction to the Zephyran people were filled with uncertainty and curiosity. Ethan spent hours each day learning about Zephyra's customs, traditions, and ways of life. Queen Lyra patiently guided him, explaining the meaning behind every ceremony, every gesture, and every tradition. Though some Zephyrans remained doubtful, many started to warm up to him, touched by his genuine effort to understand their culture. Each day, Ethan could see Lyra's pride in him grow. He was deeply thankful for her unwavering support, knowing it gave him strength even when things seemed difficult. However, despite the Queen's acceptance, he still faced challenges from Zephyrans who were skeptical of his intentions. One morning, Ethan stood quietly in a courtyard, training with some Zephyran soldiers. They practiced defensive moves and agility, skills necessary for survival in Zephyra's dangerous environment. Ethan worked hard, pushing himself to keep pace with the Zephyran warriors whose natural strength and speed often surpassed his own. Commander Aurea watched from a distance, her expression unreadable, but clearly interested. Ethan could sense her continuous scrutiny. Understanding she was still not fully convinced of his sincerity or his capability. After training, Aurea approached him directly, her eyes narrowed in challenge. "You train diligently, human," she said, coldly, "but words and gestures are easy. It is actions that truly show character." Ethan stood calmly, meeting her gaze without fear. "I understand your doubts, Commander," he replied respectfully. "I hope to prove myself through my actions." Aurea nodded sharply, clearly unconvinced but unwilling to press further at that moment. Ethan knew that gaining her trust would require more than words. It would require demonstrating courage, loyalty, and honor. That afternoon, Lyra took Ethan deeper into the heart of the Zephyran capital, to a grand library. Ancient texts lined the walls, their bindings decorated with precious metals and stones. Lyra carefully selected several books, opening one gently on a large stone table. "These writings detail our history and the prophecy," Lyra explained. "It is important you understand fully what our people expect from you, Ethan." He listened closely as Lyra read aloud passages describing past conflicts and the hope for unity. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility resting on him. He was determined to meet their expectations, knowing that peace between their two worlds depended on his actions. Over the next few days, Ethan committed himself to studying these texts. Gradually, Zephyrans visiting the library noticed his dedication, sparking quiet conversations about his sincerity. Slowly, respect for Ethan began spreading through the community. One evening, Lyra and Ethan attended a gathering in the main hall. Ethan stood by Lyra's side, greeting Zephyran dignitaries. Many expressed guarded curiosity, asking questions about Earth and human culture. Ethan answered each one thoughtfully, patiently sharing details about his home planet. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. Zephyran warriors swiftly took defensive positions. Aurea rushed in, her voice firm. "An attack by renegade factions, Your Majesty. They oppose your union with the human." Lyra immediately took command. Ethan stood ready by her side, determined to defend the newfound peace. Warriors quickly moved into positions around the palace, and Lyra and Ethan made their way to a secure area. As they moved, Ethan heard sounds of fighting growing closer. Without hesitation, he grabbed a weapon from a fallen guard and took position beside Lyra. She looked at him briefly, surprise and gratitude evident in her eyes. The attackers burst through the entrance, Zephyrans who opposed the Union driven by fear and prejudice. Ethan fought alongside Lyra's guards, demonstrating bravery and loyalty that surprised even Aurea. Together, they successfully defended their position, forcing the attackers to retreat. After the battle, Ethan helped tend to wounded Zephyrins, earning respect from even the most skeptical warriors. Aurea approached him, her stance softer than before. "You showed courage today," she admitted quietly. "Perhaps I judged you too quickly." Ethan nodded respectfully. "I understand your caution. Trust must be earned." Aurea looked at him seriously, then finally extended her hand. Ethan took it firmly, recognizing the importance of this moment. This small act was a significant step towards true acceptance. Later that evening, Ethan stood with Lyra overlooking the city from a balcony. She looked proud and relieved. "You were brave today, Ethan. You proved yourself beyond any doubts." "I only did what needed to be done," Ethan replied sincerely, feeling deeply humbled. Lyra smiled warmly. "That is exactly why my people are beginning to trust you. You place others above yourself, always." They stood quietly for a while, feeling the peace that followed conflict. Ethan realized this was only the beginning. More challenges awaited, but together, he and Lyra would face them all, determined to build a lasting peace between their worlds. Under the starlit sky, Ethan felt a deep sense of hope. He had found his purpose on Zephyra and would dedicate himself fully to it, confident that with each passing day, unity will grow stronger. Ethan Hart stood on the palace balcony, looking over the strange beauty of the Zephyrin capital. He had spent only one day here, yet he already felt deeply connected to this place. The city was built harmoniously within the natural environment, with houses and buildings growing directly from massive trees, vines, and colorful crystal-like structures that shimmered gently in the fading sunlight. Beside him, Queen Lyra stood gracefully, her silver hair reflecting the evening glow. Ethan noticed the way her presence made the scene more peaceful. Despite the beauty around them, tension still lingered from earlier. Many Zephyrins remained uncertain about him, their whispers filled with doubt and suspicion. "You seem worried," Lyra said softly, her melodic voice pulling Ethan's attention back to her. Ethan smiled faintly. "I worry that your people might never truly accept me. Aurea especially seems determined to oppose this union." Lyra placed a gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder, warmth flowing through her touch. "Aurea is a proud warrior. Her loyalty runs deep, but she fears change. Give her time. She will come to see the truth." Ethan nodded, understanding her words, yet doubts lingered in his heart. He knew earning the trust of Lyra's people would be difficult, but he was determined. He had always been taught that peace was worth any effort, and here at this moment he felt it strongly. "Come," Lyra said, breaking the silence. "There is something I wish to show you." Ethan followed her as they moved through halls beautifully, lit by glowing crystals set into the walls. Eventually, they reached a large chamber filled with murals depicting Zephyrin history. "These images tell our story," Lyra explained gently, moving slowly along the walls. Ethan studied each mural closely, captivated by the vivid portrayals. Battles, celebrations, and ceremonies all blended seamlessly into the artistic display. Lyra stopped before a specific mural. It depicted a prophecy showing a figure holding out a unique flower surrounded by symbols representing peace and unity. "This is the prophecy," Lyra explained, her voice serious. "It has guided us for generations. My ancestors believed deeply in its promise, and now you have brought this prophecy to life." Ethan felt the weight of those words, realizing the great responsibility placed upon him. "I hope I can be what your people need," he said sincerely. Lyra turned to face him, her eyes gentle yet firm. "You already are, Ethan. You show kindness and strength. That is exactly what my people must see." The following days were filled with efforts to prove Ethan's intentions. He learned Zephyrin customs, practiced their language, and studied their way of life. Many Zephyrins were impressed by Ethan's dedication, yet others remained distant, wary of the human among them. One afternoon, Ethan trained in the palace courtyard, practicing defensive moves taught by Zephyrin warriors. Lyra watched him from a distance, proud of his progress. Suddenly, Commander Oria entered the courtyard, approaching Ethan directly. "I challenge you," Oria declared loudly, her voice strong and clear. "If you wish to stand among us, prove you have the strength." Lyra stepped forward, ready to intervene, but Ethan gently raised his hand, signaling he was prepared to face this challenge. "I accept," Ethan replied firmly, meeting Oria's fierce gaze directly. The Zephyrins quickly formed a circle, eager and curious to watch the confrontation. Lyra stood aside, concern evident on her face. Oria drew her weapon, a graceful yet deadly blade. Ethan chose a similar training blade, knowing the fight would be difficult yet determined to prove himself worthy. They circled each other, assessing weaknesses carefully. Oria moved first, her attack swift and precise. Ethan blocked skillfully, his reflexes sharp. The fight continued, both warriors evenly matched, neither giving ground easily. Sweat dripped from Ethan's forehead as he blocked another fierce strike. Oria pressed harder, determination blazing in her eyes. Ethan felt the tension but remained calm, knowing patience was key. Finally, Oria made a slight error, leaving herself briefly exposed. Ethan quickly seized the opportunity, gently but firmly, placing his blade against her side. "Yield," Ethan said clearly, breathing heavily. Oria hesitated, pride evident in her expression. But eventually, respect slowly replaced hostility. She lowered her weapon, nodding slightly. "I yield," she admitted reluctantly, her voice softer now. "Perhaps you are stronger than I thought." The Zephyrins watching cheered respectfully. There, acceptance evident. Lyra approached Ethan, her eyes glowing warmly. "You have proven yourself not only through peace, but also strength," she said softly, pride evident in her voice. Later that evening, Ethan and Lyra sat alone by a tranquil pool within the palace gardens. Ethan felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but knew more challenges lay ahead. "Your people begin to trust me," Ethan said quietly, looking into the reflective water. Lyra nodded gently, her eyes filled with warmth. "Yes, but trust must continue to grow. Our peace is fragile, Ethan." He understood her concerns. They faced a difficult journey, filled with obstacles from both their worlds. Yet Ethan found strength in Lyra's presence and believed deeply in their shared goal. "Whatever comes next," Ethan promised sincerely, "we face it together." Lyra smiled, reassured by Ethan's words. Together, they felt unstoppable. Ethan knew the path ahead would be challenging, but with Lyra by his side, he believed they could create lasting peace between their worlds. As night fell over Zephora, Ethan and Lyra remained quietly by the pool, knowing their journey had only just begun. Yet in that peaceful moment, their hope shined brightly, lighting the way forward. Ethan's heart opened his eyes slowly, his body aching from exhaustion. The thick human air of Zephora filled his lungs as he lay hidden among dense alien foliage. Ethan was alone, his team having fled in panic when the fierce Zephyrin warriors launched their sudden attack. He had barely escaped capture, slipping away in the confusion and retreating deeper into the strange jungle. Zephora was unlike any world Ethan had ever imagined. Towering trees, twisted and shimmering with metallic hues, stretched high into the sky. Vines pulsed gently, glowing softly in shades of blue and green. It was beautiful but dangerous, home to unknown creatures and, more importantly, the Zephyrins who fiercely guarded their world. Checking his gear, Ethan sighed in relief. His rifle was intact, though ammo was low. A knife and a few basic survival tools remained at his side. His communications device was broken, smashed during his escape. Ethan knew he had to move cautiously, staying hidden until he could find a way back to his base. He began moving quietly through the jungle, his training guiding each careful step. He paused when he heard a rustling nearby. Ethan pressed himself against a tree, heart pounding. Through the leaves, he glimpsed a small clearing. To his astonishment, there stood a lone Zephyrin figure. It was a woman, regal and imposing. Her skin was a pale, shimmering silver, hair cascading down her back like liquid starlight. Her armor, made from intricate plates that looked more like art than protection, glittered in the filtered sunlight. Ethan recognized her instantly from the intelligence reports, the Zephyrin Queen Lyra. His mind raced. What was she doing out here alone? Ethan knew the dangers of confronting her, but also understood the potential for peace. His heart told him that violence was not the answer. He needed to show her he meant no harm. Nearby, Ethan noticed something familiar yet out of place, a single earth flower. It had grown somehow, perhaps from seeds carried unintentionally by earlier human expeditions. The flower was delicate, a gentle shade of lavender, standing defiantly beautiful amidst the alien greenery. Without fully thinking, Ethan reached out, carefully plucking the bloom. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the clearing, holding the flower in front of him as a symbol of peace. Lyra spun around swiftly, her eyes narrowing, ready to fight. But when she saw Ethan standing there, weapon lowered, offering the fragile blossom, her fierce gaze softened. "What is this?" Lyra asked, her voice clear and melodic, tinged with curiosity rather than hostility. "A flower from my home," Ethan replied gently. "A sign of peace." Lyra stepped closer, moving gracefully. She extended one elegant hand, taking the flower carefully from Ethan. Her touch was surprisingly warm, her expression softening even more as she admired the delicate petals. "You risk much, coming to me like this," she finally said, looking up at Ethan with eyes deep as galaxies. "I believe peace is worth any risk," Ethan replied firmly, sincerity shining through his words. Lyra's gaze lingered on Ethan, measuring his intentions. Finally, she smiled softly, a rare gesture that made her seem less imposing and more human. "Do you know of our ancient prophecy?" Lyra asked quietly. Ethan shook his head slightly, remaining calm despite the tension still thick around them. "It speaks of a stranger who brings a gift never before seen on Zephyra," Lyra explained slowly. "A gift marking the beginning of unity and peace between two peoples who once only knew conflict." Ethan listened intently, heart beating faster as he absorbed her words. Lyra stepped even closer, her eyes searching his. "You brought me such a gift today. This flower does not grow naturally here. It is from your world, and it matches our prophecy exactly. You, Ethan Hart, must be my destined mate." Ethan blinked, stunned into silence. The prophecy was unexpected, but he saw genuine hope in Lyra's eyes, a hope he shared deeply. Peace was desperately needed, and if this was the way, he would not turn his back. Lyra gently took his hand, a surprising yet comforting gesture. "Come with me," she said warmly. "I will show my people that the prophecy has come true, and perhaps we can end this war." As they walked toward the heart of Zephyrin civilization, Ethan felt the weight of his decision. He knew not all Zephyrins would accept him, especially those who thrived on conflict. But he was ready to face whatever came next, driven by the powerful belief in a future where humans and Zephyrins could coexist. Lyra led him confidently through the jungle paths, her presence commanding respect. Guards emerged silently, startled by Ethan's appearance, but swiftly standing down when they saw Lyra's approving nod. Ethan realized how deeply the Zephyrins respected their queen, her judgment above question. Arriving at the majestic Zephyrin palace, Ethan saw its beauty, clearly reflected Lyra's own. Structures blended naturally with towering trees, walls glowing gently as if alive. Lyra guided Ethan into the great hall, filled with curious and wary Zephyrins who watched him closely. "My people," Lyra announced, her voice powerful yet gentle, commanding attention effortlessly. "The prophecy of unity has been fulfilled. Today, Ethan Hart, a soldier from Earth, has presented me with the foretold flower. He is my destined mate, and his presence among us heralds an era of peace." Gasps and murmurs filled the hall, surprise mixed with skepticism. Ethan stood tall beside Lyra, determined to show strength and confidence despite his pounding heart. He met their eyes openly, silently urging them to believe in the hope he represented. Lyra squeezed his hand reassuringly, her presence grounding him. Slowly, murmurs of doubt gave way to cautious curiosity. Ethan could feel the tide shifting subtly, the potential for acceptance gradually taking root. Commander Aureus stepped forward, eyes fierce and wary. Queen Lyra, how can we trust this human? Our war has lasted generations. Why should he be different? Lyra met Aureus' challenging gaze calmly. Because the prophecy is clear, and the flower he brought is unique. We have awaited this sign for generations. It is time to trust in something new, something better. Aureus seemed unconvinced, but bowed respectfully, stepping back into the crowd. Ethan knew she would be a challenge, but he trusted Lyra's judgment and hoped to prove his intentions through his actions. After the gathering dispersed, Lyra turned to Ethan, her expression kind. It will take time for everyone to fully accept you, but I see your sincerity, and that is enough for now. Ethan nodded, understanding deeply. His journey was only beginning, filled with unknown challenges. But alongside Lyra, he felt ready to face anything. Together, they would build a bridge between their worlds, guided by the simple, beautiful flower he had offered from the heart.